wait on.
We'll make this official. It's not mine.
Oh, never mind. Just standing
We
here.
got like 10 seconds.
Okay, so I'm staying.
That's pretty close.
I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right, I guess you're still leading, right?
Yeah, I guess I'm still leading. Hey, we got election of officers. Anybody have any motion or anything?
You want me to make, I think
That
we're on the
sounds good.
same page?
Go ahead.
I can make motion to elect Jack Peterson as president of the board of commissioners.
Do I set up myself?
Go. Keep going.
Oh, and James Lowe to be the vice president of the board of commissioners.
I'll say. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. That's done.
Bills for the week. It was $612,929.02. Any questions, any discussions on it?
So moved. I didn't see anything that was out of order.
Engineering or budget.
Say the law. Oh, okay, never mind, that's better.
Is that a motion?
Yes.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Senator Dow? Wants to make a motion to accept this? Zero. We don't need to make a motion.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Okay, well, then we'll ask you.
The request for appropriations, we have a request for $12,500 from the municipal courts for our portion of the pay for the foreign judge, which is Washburn. We got appointed by Wine.
Yeah, it was probably the temporary judge.
Yeah.
That was certainly.
Right. So that's the amount for the foreign judge paid for prior to him taking over, getting sworn in.
So moved.
There's a second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Transfer of funds, this is just to the transfer the remaining balance of the LAC settlement fund from general fund to the escrow account, and that's for $3,610,368.83.
That was so moved.
Second. All in favor?
Aye. That's what we talked about last.
That's a disposal form from the courthouse, from Canon scanner for condition, damage beyond repair.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
You guys are way too excited back there.
It's just breaking into stuff though.
What about them Buckeyes?
Oh, was there a game?
That's gonna be a heck of a game too. Smashing all the teams.
Another asset disposal form from the Shortland Courthouse. 2 chairs, red, poor condition, damage beyond repair. Do I have a motion?
So moved. Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Cheers.
I'll give him my chair.
We'll get you chairs.
I got this one broken in.
That one's broken in.
I got this one broken in. It don't wobble or nothing.
You can buy it all.
And I fixed it so it don't flip me back.
On asset disposal form from the title department. One Dell computer damage beyond repair. Motion.
So moved.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye. You guys have anything you do, anything you do.
It's the newly elected officials.
Yeah.
You're lucky too.
Mhm.
From the Ross County Planning Department, on our grant award from last week that we had only one for the environmental health was recommended going with the only quote from January 8th of 2024 for batch 4 of the 2024 WPCL CLF grant. The award resolution for JV Construction in the amount of $10,650 to present to the EPA.
So moved.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
West County Juvenile Court has a contract, a service contract, to be a provider for parties for placement and related services for children who are in the care and custody of the West County Juvenile Court during calendar year 2025. The company is Cornell Abra Access. ERAXAF, so however you pronounce that.
Yeah.
Group, and they're out of Shelby, Ohio. This is the contract with all the provisions, and these are for kids mostly with mental health issues, something we need for the continuation and continuing care for those kids, so I have a motion to accept this contract.
So moved.
Second. All in favor, say aye.
Aye. They signed it.
Yeah, Jeff signed it.
And we started at 9 o'clock here.
I gotta have my coffee.
I do.
Ross County's engineers, released a report here on the load limits for the trustees out of the Chelsea Pike. Just a report of the load limits, just notification that lists of 22 bridges with spans greater than 10 feet have been posted to reduce load limits. So, requesting that this be entered into the Commissioner's Journal. Township trustees have been notified of the condition in respective bridges. So it's 22 bridges across the county and the load limits that they currently are rated for.
You've taken motion to enter it into the journal.
Second.
All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
That's easy. We'll wait for Jeff on $2 million check here. So we got, Brad, you got anything?
Brad, you wanna send that contract out, that thing? We talked about last week. Service center,
Already sent it.
okay.
It's out. It was in the, it should have been in the paper Sunday, right?
Yes.
And it'll be in again next Sunday. I got this from the dog warden last week. This is a request for 3 sets of body armor.
What?
They get shot at?
No, but they had somebody threaten them. So now they think they need body armor. I'll let you read the incident report. They said they got threatened in front of the police and the police never did anything about it. Never put the guy in jail.
Choke out.
In town, yeah.
I think I might have 3 of them in my closet. Never been out of the box or out of the glass.
Is that right? Yeah. There you
They're
go.
too big. They're too big.
What are you trying to say? May not be too big for one of them.
I remember it's like $1,300 or something piece. It wasn't cheap.
They're not cheap.
So it's like $1,200, $1,300
Yes.
for the description. I didn't even know more about this from Juanita, what happened, is there an incident report or anything?
Yeah, I have it. I'll bring it to you.
Yeah, I'm gonna guess, try to see that.
Okay, I'll get that for you. This came from planning and development. They said there's no signature required, just needs recorded approval to apply.
So this is, for them to handle this is OVRDC.
I really got no explanation. I just got it handed to me and said, no signature required. Just ask them to approve it.
I don't know what they expect us to do with that.
They said, all it said was, no signature required,
Just in the journal, it says.
just need recorded approval to apply. We have them come over. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't even know what I'm doing.
I don't know what's happening.
This is kind of redundant, but it looks like it's taking some control over some of the grant.
That's not for that
It's not for the.
Georgetown thing, is it now?
They've already got that worked out.
Is it for them to administer, for OVRDC to administer the CHIP grant? Is that what it is?
I don't know.
It's Community Development Block Grant.
So that's
Administrative.
That's what it is,
Yeah, that's what it is. It's for they,
for them to administer.
for them to administer.
That block grant.
Is it them or is it the
Who
ORDC?
brought it over? Joanne?
Jillian? I just had them come over, they can explain it.
Can I have my trash can back?
Yeah. I was making jokes.
Keep it on your side, you can have it.
I got no equipment back there. I got the wrong.
I got one on the floor, so that better not.
This is a document for the paint stadium. Because the money that we're getting for the paint stadium is coming from us, but we're spending it on somebody else's property, which is owned by the federal government, we have to have this document signed. And the VA is going to sign it as well, but I need you guys to sign it. It's an estoppel agreement.
I read about that, what was going on with it and what they had to do, and you're right.
It's basically saying that they're giving us the money, we're spending it on somebody else's property, and they want to make sure that if for some reason something went wrong, they can still get in there and get on the property because they gave the money.
Right. So moved.
Second.
Look at this. I know you didn't have to,
All in favor?
but
And there's a timesheet.
so moved.
Approval.
That's gonna need to be
All in favor?
notified.
Aye.
And then I've got the issue of the city council too.
Where's
I
Dennis?
sent over to you.
So, you want to talk about that? I don't know.
It's right.
Whenever you're ready.
Look at that.
We heard online.
That was quick.
Hear it all along.
Yeah, this is, okay. Yeah, these are our response to our RFQ for administrative services for the CDBG. We only got one response from ORDC. So, yeah, we just need approval. Yeah, they're the only game in town, and we need them to administer our CDBG projects for us.
Okay. So moved. Second.
All in favor?
That was easy. Anything else while I'm here?
No credit.
Just one of the steps in, I guess.
You don't need that.
I got him. Good to see you. Yep. They just don't, you guys don't have to sit over there much. I was back here more. I'm over here doing work in the map office for Ken Bobby. I understand. Yeah. I said, well, stop it. Thank you. See you guys. Thank you.
Well, I did, through the personnel manual over the weekend. Wrote my comments on there about what's missing or. So I don't know if you guys want to look through that. It's very entertaining.
I'd love to. I'd like to whenever they get a copy of it.
I can send you an electronic version of it, I believe.
I got my comments on this one, so we'll get
Yep.
copies of this.
Get your copies.
Looks like a meaty info there.
There's a lot of empty pages. Not
Maybe meaty isn't the
two sentences on one page.
Looks like the sheriff's budget.
That's front and back too.
So what are we gonna do with city council?
Tell me.
How many conflict dates do we have on the second and fourth month?
Well, I just looked through a couple, 3 months and, it looks like there's at least 2. Plus, we're gonna be doing construction in the next year.
They're wanting to use this as the meeting room?
Not here.
Not service.
They want to use apparently Jody Walker and Lisa Bennett. Lisa has something to do with, the joint vocational school now, and they do something in the one stop. I'm not exactly sure what it is.
She's affiliated with Hickory Ross. That's the Aspire program.
Okay, so while she was in there, she mentioned to Jody that they were, apparently those council members have been talking about finding a new place to have their meetings. They don't think that facility is right for what they're doing. But
if you've ever seen that chambers loaded down with people, you know, you'd have to have a place big enough to hold it. And Jody doesn't think that he has anything back on his side
No hold everything.
that'll hold everybody. So he said the only place that he would say that they ought to use, if they're going to use anything, would be the conference rooms. Well, you know, those conference rooms are already
Moving forward.
well, yeah, you never know.
We're gonna
you
be
know.
doing repairs and stuff like that, remodeling and stuff like that, that's in there.
So much stuff is involved in that. I mean, they televise those meetings, there's separation between the gallery and the council.
This is for the regular council meeting.
Yeah,
Why don't you go to municipal court where they started that?
well, that's where, when they built that building, that's originally what they were going to do, I understood,
Was
was,
the base.
What's the problem with the current city?
well, you saw the email that I sent you.
The elevator, somebody said the elevator doesn't work yet, and they're not gonna get it fixed.
We're gonna need to.
The restroom's about to fall in and all stuff like that, just down here, it's not that. It's not handicap accessible and.
That building needs, talk about capital plan.
Yeah, I cover council. It's a really bad building. Like, there's mold in parts of it. The elevator sometimes doesn't work, so then it's not a public meeting. It can either be very hot or very cold. Like, it's not a good time.
That building has had problems for many, many decades. It's used to be three floors. They eliminated one of the floors because the roof wasn't taken care of. And it's kind of a shame. That's a historic building. It's been around for a long time.
And I think that's the only use of that building now is council.
That's to say, that's the only time they're using
That storage. Right, storage. It was that way when I was there. I mean, there was a mess, but this is a little more complex than just everybody showing up in a room twice a month.
Exactly.
There's a lot of setup involved here.
Well, and it's almost like they can't leave it in place either, because you never know what kind of meetings, just like your meeting. Yeah. You know, if their stuff's all in place, that's not good for you. Or, you know, you got 4-H in there. I mean, you have so many different,
Yeah.
I'm not saying not to allow, I have no fuss with them doing it. I just don't know how we schedule it to guarantee that every second and fourth Monday
they can have it.
in the evening it's available, especially if they have committee meetings before that, you know, that start at 4 or 5. Some of the dates that they have are close, you know, where somebody's ending at 7 and they're starting, but I think they probably get in there around, isn't that when the meeting starts at 7? So it's 7.
The other thing is that this doesn't sound like a temporary solution there, you know.
Well, they're at it. What I gathered from it is 1 to 2 years. Did you?
Yeah, that's what I took.
I mean, that's not temporary, if you ask me.
I thought they wanted to just use municipal court.
I don't know.
Is there a room big enough in there?
Should be.
I mean, it's not a place fix.
It's almost about the same size as what they got now.
Talking about using the court.
Mm-hmm.
Because that's what that
they
chambers was.
That's what it was. I mean, it was the court.
Right.
We used it as a court and they still had.
Judge Bunch was in there last, I think, wasn't
I personally say, you know, I don't think I don't think the service center is a place to do that. It's a place that is already regularly utilized for all sorts of different groups and nonprofit organizations, public meetings, to book it up, you know, basically every week for the next 2 years. That's not what that room was intended for, and I want to be a part of finding a solution for council if there is one that we can help with, but
That's not our purview.
no, it's not.
It's their issue. They need to find a solution, but for a year or two, that
And I don't think
sounds
that's
open-ended to me.
And I don't think the service center is going to be a solution. At least the next 2 years, it's not going to be a solution.
You never know how many people are gonna come to meetings, how many chairs to set up, what tables to set up. I mean, they could run a meeting in there. There's a lot of just singular level stuff that happens for boards and councils, but I don't see an end date to this.
Do you think one of those spaces is large enough, or do you have to have 2? Because that's what I was looking at. was taking one of the divider walls out and making it big, the space that you had.
Depends on how many come to the meeting.
Yeah, that's the thing. and you
in
know,
most
that-
cases, one
So
would
you
be
basically ought to open it up for two if you're gonna do it
Yeah,
each
if you're
time.
gonna prepare for worst case scenario, yeah, that's what you do, but
And you have to set up, who's supposed to set it up?
Well,
They want us to set it up,
I think
or they're just gonna leave things up?
what I got from the email was, I think Jeff Creed was just asking if it was even a possibility. In my email, I said, if you want me to talk about this, or you can come to the meeting.
Yeah.
if it was for a couple months or something, I could see it return an HVAC system or something over.
Right.
This building, but 1-2 years, we can't afford I went into Wins, whatever they call that scheduling tool that you
Yeah,
sent.
yes.
I signed up and put that app on my computer and just looked how in-depth those rooms are scheduled, how far in advance. And
They are, as soon as usually by the end of the year, those people, at one time, the theory was that those rooms should only be used for folks that are affiliated with the building. Because at one point it got to be where you couldn't get in there. They were using it for all kinds of stuff, so, I don't know that there's a written policy for that, but I believe there was at one time.
I think that there's obviously a need for public meeting spaces for any type of organization that needs that. And there's not a lot of options. There's the service center and then the library annex. But for us to basically give up that availability for another government that doesn't control that building just doesn't seem like it's fit. The municipal court may be an option, the library annex may be an option. I don't know if they've reached out to them. There's a lot of facilities in the library annex that could be a tool. It's right next door.
Somebody just said to me about, can they use the armory? And I said, well, we're gonna use the elevator, so you can use the gym upstairs. I said, they've got no elevator. So it's not handicap accessible, so you can't.
I don't know, it's gotten that bad that building has deteriorated to the point where
the armory is gonna be completely redone. They finally started focusing on that being the source of the project instead of building a new visitor center and putting everything in there. So the armory is gonna be under construction.
I'd like to see that city hall revitalized. That's not mine.
But I guess bottom line is that on an emergency basis, a onesie-twosie kind of thing, we'll be happy to help them out. But for a 1-2 year continuous period, we can't do it.
Okay.
Agreed.
Good with that?
I'm good with that.
No, no worries, you're going to catch up a little bit before time.
When do we think we're gonna start on the bank building?
You know, is it good enough?
I think we got a long way to go before we're ready for that. I thought of the same thing, whatever our
I'm thinking
unified approach would be,
maybe the bank building?
Morning.
that's years away from being done.
Good here.
Everybody's
Good to see you.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Nick Carr. Nice to meet you.
it's wide open, am I right?
It is. I mean, if that's the offer you want me to make to them, I can.
Happy New Year.
How we doing? We just had to figure out how much trouble it's gonna be.
You need to use it under its current condition.
Yeah.
Is there-
This is just a wide open space, am I right? In downstairs.
Well, it hasn't changed since,
But the bank.
It still looks like a bank.
it still looks like a bank. I mean, you get tellers on one side, you get office space on the other, and then you got that open
I
space.
think they would be able to find a better option. But I think the library is probably the way for them.
I don't think the library is big. I think that annex office in the library is big.
Where they had that NAACP meeting?
Yeah, on the main campus, that was great.
Were you there for that? Yeah, you were there. For that thing with the attorney, the US.
Oh, in that back room?
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah, they could use that.
So they got parking there too.
I mean, if they need an immediate, like Jack said, if they need something immediate, temporary, like a few times intermittently, I'm okay with taking services, but just to book it out for 2 years, it goes on. I just didn't see where.
We just put it out there.
Well, I'm in a pinch, but long term, we can't do it.
Got
it. Nick, how are you?
Good.
Good
How
to
y'all
see
doing? Good to see you too. Happy New Year.
you. Happy New Year.
Dave, nice to meet you.
Yeah.
You too. Good to see
Yeah,
you.
Wes, yeah.
Absolutely.
Like a beer, dude, man, looking good.
Can you see the gray?
A little bit. Yeah.
This morning I was thinking about, well, do I cut it off? Kathy wants to get pictures of us and so do I cut it off or not? Not a hat without nothing gray.
That's why I've been trimming up more lately. I'm trying to put the gray showing, man. If I keep it short, it don't look as gray. I'm trying to buy an extra year or two.
All right,
Go.
your show.
Awesome. Well, before we get started, any questions or anything we want to make sure we cover?
So far you're doing this.
All right, doing good. All right, we're making money on money. That's what we like and keeping it safe. So going through the information here, starting on page 3, I think it's good to just reflect on where we've come in 2024, and obviously we're going to talk through some expectations here moving into 2025. And I won't go through each and every one of these boxes on page 3, but more so point out some that I think are important to touch on. First and foremost, we saw the Federal Reserve cut interest rates from 5.5% down to 4.5%. So easing of some expectations on inflation, maybe some troubling signs on the employment side, which we're going to touch on a little bit as that picture's changed, especially from an expectation of continued rate cuts in the 2025. But obviously there's some things that could affect yields as we move forward on into the year, with the big one coming with the Republican election sweep in November, and how inflation is affected, possibly some growth expectations changing. But what's really interesting is you saw the 3-month Treasury bill, it yielded 5.33% in December of 2023. It ended the year at 4.31. So obviously it's more of a reminder that the Fed is controlling front-end interest rates, with the longer end of the yield curve really being dictated by inflation and growth expectations. And it could be even more true as you look at the 2-year Treasury and the 5-year Treasury, with the 2-year Treasury yielding a 4.25 in December of 2023. It ended the year pretty flat. So we had 100 basis points of rate cuts, but yields stayed consistent at 4.24%. And the 5-year Treasury yield, it actually increased. So it was at a 3.85% at the end of 2023 and jumped, to 4.38%. It's actually closer to 4.5 today. So again, this notion of inflation is sticking around a little bit. The economy is maybe weathering the storm a little better than maybe what was fully expected. Continues to be something that we're monitoring into 2025.
So they're wanting us to keep it for 5 years instead of going for 3 months.
Yes, there's a little bit more incentive.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah. So you're starting to see the yield curve, what we call uninvert. So you're getting some steepness across the yield curve, as David and I were talking about. It's a nice opportunity to be able to continue. Again, what we've talked about, what we're going to continue to look at is locking in that budgetary interest income right now as we see interest rates elevated.
Yeah, that's been our strategy for the last few years, right? While we know that yields are high, we want to lock in these rates and have predictable interest income for the foreseeable future and try to lock out those maturities for as long as possible.
Yeah. Perfect. So we can jump into page 4. There's a lot of economic data here this morning. I won't put everybody to sleep, but I think it's important to point out expectations of where the Fed will be moving into 2025. And these are just guesses. These are just, from the Fed's standpoint of looking at expectations and providing that summary of economic projections to the marketplace. But as we know, these expectations can certainly change pretty rapidly. Where if you look back to call it maybe the fall, when we were here last time having some conversations, we talked about maybe 6 rate cuts into 2025, then it went to 4 rate cuts into 2025. Well, now there's 2 rate cuts priced into 2025. And we're gonna talk about that a little bit more here as to why that's being looked at as a lower cut probability into the future. And some of those reasons, as we look through year-over-year inflation, inflation has remained pretty sticky. And we're gonna get some more inflationary readings here this week, talking through year-over-year numbers. But some of the categories of inflation that remain troublesome continue to be housing, which I think you continue to hear, and auto insurance prices, and insurance in general, I think. And obviously some of the devastation that's taken place out west, that can cause some rippling effects across the entire economy. We're hearing upwards of $200 billion to rebuild, how that affects supply chains and building on the building side of things. So something to continue to be mindful of. And, with inflation also comes growth. So as we continue to look on page 6, when we look at quarter over quarter, staying in that 2% range continues to be a healthy growth side of things. But the continued expectation is that growth starts to taper below 2% as we end through Q4 of 2025. And we know, and as I brought up earlier, obviously with the new administration coming in, how tariffs affect growth and supply chains and so forth. So this can continue to be something of watch, but as we expect now, the market continues to see 2% of a favorable growth pattern as we move into the calendar years here. Unemployment claims. So when you look at the Fed's 2 mandates of inflation and unemployment, inflation was really the main driver and decision-making behind interest rate policy. Obviously we experienced some record-paced inflation, and inflation was the public enemy number one. The Fed wanted to curb the inflation by raising interest rates, one of the quickest tightening cycles in modern history. It shifted a little bit, where inflation seems to be under control, still sticky, but the employment side of things continues to be under the microscope. Fast forward last week, you probably saw maybe on Yahoo Finance or so forth, employment came in stronger than expected. And which is, we were talking about, it's a weird thought, right? That you get a positive signal to the market that jobs are being created, but the stock market sells off, right? You see the stock market move lower. And a lot of that has to do with expectations on Fed path of continuous cutting rates into the calendar year based upon continued employees working and so forth and contributing to inflation. And when you look at jobs created in 2024, it was like 2.1 million new jobs were created, which was higher than in 2019 pre-pandemic. So again, the economy seems to be chugging along quite well, and the employment side continues to be in a position that the market feels comfortable with right now.
What was the biggest sector that grew in jobs?
That's a great, I don't know that off the top of my head, but it's probably government jobs.
Right. And that's non-GDP.
Non-GDP contributing positions, that's exactly right. Yep. So again, this gets into the administration, how things are being cut or changed or small tightening of government. This is a whole nother caveat of government spending and how it contributes to growth and so forth. And where do you make cuts of the like? You're right. Jobs that are being created, whether they be government or retail jobs or the higher paying jobs, that does get lost sometimes in the headlines when you don't dissect and really look into that data.
It also depends on if those people are contributing or are they producing anything, rather than just taking up administrative positions that don't add to the GDP. And that creates further inflation. If
That's exactly right. Yep, absolutely. And yeah, and then the value of the dollar obviously plays a big role in the things. And this inflation story is going to be hard to unwind in a couple of years' time. This is something that's going to be here for a while. When you look at the amount of money in circulation, it's something I look at. I mean, we're at historical levels. And when you're spending more than you're bringing in, that creates trouble to the consumer.
I don't know how you take wages away from people. I just don't know how to do that.
Yeah, that's exactly right. Yeah. You get used to a certain way of living and so forth, and it becomes a little more challenging to pull that back when you're used to making it. Absolutely. So again, these are all things that are kind of coming to a head right now from the markets. Good point. So on page 8 here, just to give everybody an idea of where we're at, from the upper limits to the 2-year treasury, which you typically have been hearing, the 2-year treasury note within the marketplace. We got our last rate increase in, call it the second half of 2023. We stayed range bound from 2023 until roughly August of 2024, when we received our first rate cut of 50 basis points. And you can see how the 2-year treasury reacted across this time period. And really, you know, as we continue to look at and monitor interest rates, you want to be rewarded for continuously being able to go out across the yield curve and to lock into these overarching yields. And as I mentioned, you've continued to start to see more steepness across the yield curve. And that's data that we're sharing with David and his team to look at ways to best position the portfolio as we continue to move forward here. But I think, you know, one thing to point out, when you look at intermediate term and longer term rates have increased since September of last year, with inflation continuing to remain that sticky aspect that we talked about, as we've seen election results roll in and the overarching improved job market. So something to continue to look at.
This is exactly the opposite of what you were reporting in September when you came in last.
I think that's exactly right. Yeah, how quickly things can change,
That's
right?
weird.
Yeah, it's really weird. You can see the shift, right? You know,
That's what I
it's
said,
like,
I'm looking at this and I'm thinking the Fed funds are pretty even straight across. Then it comes to that September, August. But the 2 years, it's up and down all over the place.
yeah. You've seen, so the Fed's been cutting rates, but the 2-year hasn't followed. It's actually gone higher.
Yeah.
So it's that a little bit of the market the disconnect there, but really buying into the notion that longer term yields are truly based upon the inflation expectation, growth, and so forth, geopolitical uncertainty as well.
Yeah, it felt a little bit like that last cut, interest rate cut was kind of a snag right before election season. That even folks on every side were saying, "Where's this coming from out of left field?" I mean, but
Yeah. You got a lot of, right after the election, it was like, do we need it? You know, is it more of a reaction to the election? You know, how that works. But you're starting to get more dovish tone from more Fed governors that are saying, hey, you know, maybe we've hit a place of pausing and being a little more patient with data and allowing it to roll in. So, great. But getting into the portfolio, as we look across the board here, I think of great interest here. A lot of good things taking place within the portfolio. I want to look at the upper left-hand corner of the portfolio. So the cash amount, that $32 million, that's what's currently in liquid in Star, Ohio. So think of that more of like our intermediate funds that we're not investing out longer term, but need as backup liquidity to our Huntington account that we're just making our checks and payables out of. And David does a really good job of monitoring the difference between those cash vehicles to determine the best options to earn as much as we can on those funds. The big increase you saw from quarter over quarter is going to be an increased allocation to the securities, where it was roughly at $25 million, which that was a increase to the portfolio based upon some of that Appalachian grant money, and where we worked to put that money into the portfolio to lock into those heightened yields, which resulted in the overarching portfolio yield jumping almost 50 basis points. So we're upwards of a 3.59% on the overarching yield of the portfolio, with the expected budgetable interest income of calendar year 2025 to be roughly $1.4 million. So continued increase, continuing focus for us to lock into those yields out in that 3 to 5 year area. But David and his team are currently monitoring cash as well too, trying to keep, if you want to talk
I was about to say, so
yeah.
that doesn't include the yield
Please.
from Star Ohio.
That's right.
So this number is actually much lower than it will be realistically when you factor in the yield that we get from Star Ohio. And then we're going to constantly monitor that too. So I just spoke again with Devin this morning about the disbursement schedule for the Appalachian Community Grant Program funds. And we're going to kind of take a look and see exactly what we want to keep that liquid cash in to cover those disbursements, and then also factor in what we could do with either the commercial paper, things like that, so shorter yields that will match with those disbursement schedules, so that obviously we keep our cash amount in line with the disbursement schedule, but then we maximize the yield on our investments and our portfolio.
Yeah, that at least brings a bubble. You know, it's got short-term impact. I'm more concerned with the long-term impact and where we rest year over year on earned income.
Yeah, exactly. So then the overarching strategy, right, is to maximize the long-term and take advantage of these rates while we have them, but then we're not going to ignore the money that we have in that short term for the Appalachian Community Grant. So we want to maximize the yield we have on those while still having access to it at the times we need it for disbursement. So that's kind of the balancing act we're playing right now, where you see, a pretty high level of cash in the portfolio. The largest percentage of that is in Star Ohio, getting pretty decent yields, and we're trying to monitor whether or not that's the best place to put it, or if we want to look at short-term bonds or commercial paper, things like that, that work within that disbursement schedule for the Appalachian Community Grant. So we're on top of that, and that's where we're at with that. We just want to provide an update with that because that money's come in since the last time we had an investment advisory board meeting. So want to make sure that that's a strategy that you guys agree with going forward.
Served us well so far. Yeah. Perfect. Good.
Yes, that will continue to be an area of focus for us, and really for us too, David, just so you're aware, when we have maturities in the portfolio, we relay that to David and his team to make recommendations based upon what we see in the market, but also from a strategy perspective. And where David and their team, they're monitoring liquidity levels to determine, do we need to backfill cash for specific spends, such as the grant that we have going through. Yeah, so it's really a two-way process there.
Yeah. Also, sometimes there's things that get popped up on my desk, like last week with the ODOT thing. That was $2.1 million. I didn't know that we needed to have liquid, but obviously you have to be able to factor in those kind of unexpected expenditures too. And that's part of our strategy and part of what I monitor on a day-to-day basis, and we're always in a good position there.
And then lastly, on page 11, it's just more so just to give everybody an idea of the yield by maturity distribution. So taking the allocation on the prior page. But the biggest thing we use this for is to give an idea of what can be expected to earn, knowing that we're going to be buying these securities with a good intention of holding them until maturity unless there's opportunities to sell prior to. But really, as you look across that 4 and 5 year space, in that 3 to 4 year area, we're locked into with, call it 5 years, $22.6 million at a yield of 4.25%. So David and the county, that you can budget that interest income, that is locked in, that you're going to earn that regardless of what interest rates do. So it continues to be a nice opportunity for us to extend duration in the portfolio, budget that interest income, and really work to have a nice long-term foundation for success here from an income standpoint. Any questions there? Let's start playing the guessing game of what we expect rates to do when the next time we meet.
As I said, as I'm looking at
The guessing game.
Yeah.
I'm looking at Ross County's portfolio December 31st, 2023.
Yeah, talking about the cash totals and security and.
Yeah. And the portfolio on, it's on the same page as page 10.
Put page number at the bottom.
Okay.
10?
Yeah, it doesn't actually have a page number on it, does it?
Oh,
Yeah, it would be 10, yeah.
yeah.
We're looking at that between December 31st, 2023 and December 31st of 2024. That's a pretty good difference.
Yeah,
And that's a pretty good job.
it's a nice job, yeah.
Yes, it's not just a nice job, but it's a great job,
Mhm.
I think.
Yeah.
And it went from 15 to, the cash on hand was $15 million and now it's 32. Oh yeah, that's pretty good.
And that's a lot of what was pulled out of the grant.
Correct. So the biggest jump in that was in October when we got the money from the state for the Appalachian Community Grant Program. So I initially moved that in its entirety into Star Ohio and then started working with Nick in terms of how we wanted to plan that out strategy-wise for one, being able to meet our obligations during the disbursement schedule, and two, meeting our strategy and investment goals here at the county. So since then, we have moved over about $25 million in cash from STAR over to the investment portfolio in US Bank. And of course, we've tried to balance that in terms of some of the short-term maturities so that we stay liquid enough to cover those costs, but also try and extend out the portfolio into the 4 or 5 year bucket in order so we can have locked-in rates, plannable interest income for as long as possible.
And you can earn it if that's a perk of being the lead applicant on all of this is to.
It is.
And in my view, also, it protects us from shortfallings in that grant. Well, I mean, I don't fully understand what our obligation is for other communities that may go over budget or over expected, but I feel more comfortable knowing that we've got a backup plan for it.
We handle, first, our planning and development department handles Ross County projects. And that's 48 million.
Yeah.
154 million. We hired OVRDC to manage the rest. So we are in essence managing the project by proxy or by ourselves. So there's some liability there.
Yeah, that's.
So, we have to watch that. But in terms of income, this is, like I said, a bubble. And it's not, it's like they're getting an overtime check.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And, or a bonus, an annual bonus. So it's not repetitive, it's not repeatable, reproducible. I'm more interested in where good old normal levels back out when this money is all the way through the system by October 2026. So, and then we'll have to think about what is the new administration going to do about inflation? Common sense and natural course is that you raise interest rates to take money out of the economy. You don't want a lot of loans being put out there, a lot of grants being put out there, which we have gotten drunk on in the last 4 years and used to living that way. And now we're going to have trim back our expectations and look for other alternatives to moving forward.
I think there'll still be opportunity. I mean, it's a guessing game, but where we limit on one side, I think there's going to be opportunity for growth on the other. We're talking energy, in the energy market. Hopefully, we can address inflation by cut on one side by doing that, but on the other, lowering the costs of certain inelastic goods like energy. I mean, that's a huge contributor to what we're all paying at the end of the day.
I mean, there's going to be savings involved, sure, utilizing our natural resources and whatnot, but we're going to have to look at alternative ways to pay for things instead of relying on grant money to do it.
Sure.
And it's a cool spot to be in because we got a springboard with the grant money in play with all these, the good fortune that's come Ross County's way. We have to find a way to stay on top of that wave and maintain our momentum going forward. And how do we finance that? So, as you told Nick about our capital funds.
I have not.
You have not. One thing that we're looking at doing is capping our investments where they currently are.
Okay.
Taking the interest income and putting it in a capital funds account to finance projects going forward. We've never had dedicated funding account. We've never even had a line item in the budget for a capital fund.
Yep.
And I think that's necessary for us when all the good fortune is created and for how we maintain that going forward.
Sure, absolutely.
So, that's one change in our, investment strategy. It's not taking anything away that's already there. It's just
Yeah.
kind of cutting the growth of the contribution.
Of what's earned.
I think that way, I think we can sit here and say with relative good confidence that we're financing future projects, not with tax money.
Sure.
It's on the money that's created from interest on the tax dollars. But we're not asking our citizens to pay any more to finance the things that we're gonna do.
Sure.
There's enough in the system to keep that afloat.
That's a common thing that we hear regularly, so we can assist that with that process. It's really easy to identify what those levels are, but we can move to specific accounts for you so you can track that stuff. Yep. Not a problem at all.
Good,
So,
that helps. That's one little item in the bank for us.
Yep. Absolutely.
So you give me a good smile about 4 times.
That's it. All the good things, right? Yep. Perfect.
It's another good quarter. I think things are on track. I think that we're meeting our goals. The investment strategy has, I think, been effective, and I think it's something going forward that with the capital improvement project plans, I think we're set up and ready to go for that. I think with managing the community grant money, we've got everything in line to manage that and meet our obligations there. So I think we're in pretty good shape.
We're at probably March, April, about the time you're in here next time. We're gonna have a good idea of where we stand with the actual truly estimated costs of all these projects versus the conceptual costs.
Sure.
And that's gonna lay a lot of truth to the thing. Now, there's ways to handle that as the county can contribute, certainly the all counties can contribute to their growth, their projects, but or we cut part of what the project would have generated in terms of what gets done and what doesn't get done. So there's ways to manage through that, but we'll be setting a better information position on what that's going to entail specifically. March, April.
Look forward to that conversation. Be good? Yeah. And we'll say, him and I will stay in contact too if anything comes up, obviously, before and after that, so we can try to have a good game plan. So, great.
Good.
Awesome.
Sounds good, guys.
All right, stay warm.
Great job.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, absolutely. Good seeing you, Dave. Nice to meet you. Yeah, absolutely. See you in a couple of months.
So I believe actually, Jeff, Charlie asked me to come back and talk about the ODOT project update and all that, so I'll be back here probably about 15 minutes.
Okay, just say what time you guys.
Is that good seeing you?
Good seeing you.
See you later.
And then we got BOR at 10:30, so then I'll be there again.
Yeah.
Thanks a lot.
Hey, you're good second.
Thank you.
today. Is Sarah here today?
Have a couple.
Brady, do you want to make a motion to move next week?
Yeah,
Yes. I'll make a motion to approve the minutes of the last meeting.
Second, sorry. I said
Everyone say
everything.
aye?
I will also like to make a motion that we move the meeting next Monday to next Tuesday, the 21st.
Second,
Favor say aye?
Aye. Monday's a holiday.
I will not be here. I'm on my way home from DC,
So you,
but that's what,
Jimmy, you don't.
unless you move to Wednesday, I'll be here. But Tuesday's fine.
Are we going to executive session to discuss personnel?
So, yes, I think so.
Just thinking.
Street seat.
All right. No discipline.
No, it's personnel. How are you feeling?
I'm better.
Couldn't get much worse, huh?
No.
So sorry to hear that.
Thank you. Yes, I'm doing better. It's gonna be a little bit of a road, but liquid diet.
You got hit with it twice pretty quick, right?
I just don't think it got much, I don't think it got resolved the first time. I think that's kind of what happened.
Yes, we can. I'm just,
So that's,
it said certain.
yeah, this is most important, so. We're gonna move it into executive session, so let's That'd be great, guys, all that.
We're back live. Kelly, I take it. Did you read that email from Madeline?
Yes, I just sent you the, actual bill. It should be as an attachment. Did you not get it?
That,
It's the SEPCO bill
yeah,
that we need to
at one
approve.
point, should be attached to it.
I said to go back to your file.
$1,086,274.78.
86,274. Is that into the here now, or?
No, that's just bills, bills for the week.
Is that retroactive, last week, or?
Well, they have, they forgot Monday's holiday. Through about 20.
So does that get added onto this total?
Yes.
600?
This is for that engineer.
Okay.
You guys had the other ones.
Yeah.
929.
And I will print that out as well and attach it to it, so it'll be the final one.
So we have to reapprove this.
We can just do an amendment to it and approve that $1 million change.
Brings the total to a million.
Are we done?
Good, how you doing?
Okay.
1,699,203.
That's what the added to SEPCO of $1,086,274.78.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye. Spending money.
All right, work revision. How we doing?
Doing good. How are you guys? We got some time before BOR, so we thought we'd take the opportunity just to talk about where we are on the Charleston Pike escrow situation. The Huntington procedure is beyond our control.
Well, I actually can say I've got a good update in terms of our end and Huntington's end. So I was able to get them to put us on a rush to create this account. So they were actually able to get that done late in the evening on Friday. So we just have to complete our side of the paperwork to acknowledge there is a annual fee schedule for the creation and operation of that account. It's $2,000 a year. Not too bad there. And then we've got to make decisions on when we want to be notified of any internal transactions for that account. So I've directed them to put that into a money market so that account's always available for when they need it dispersed. We have the option of having quarterly updates on any transactions within it or just a yearly update on it. I don't know if we have a strong preference either way. Once again, we know the money's always going to be there and it's going to be invested in money market until the funds are dispersed. So it's really whatever you guys think on that, how often you want updates on any internal transactions within this account. And also it's assuming that we have no issue with their fee schedule.
I think Charlie doesn't need a check sent to ODOT. We just need to set that money somewhere.
Well, so that's the update on the Huntington's end. Now, there's another update on the ODOT end. So I still have not heard back. The only contact I have is that District 9 fellow, that Scott Thompson. And there is what's called a certificate of incumbency that needs to be completed on ODOT's end. I have forwarded that as soon as I got it Friday afternoon to Scott Thompson. And then I followed up with him later that evening, and he still hadn't heard anything back from ODOT. But what it'll need to be done is they've got to put it on their own letterhead. We've got an example of what will be accepted by Huntington Bank. And ideally, it would be completed by the same individual who completed the escrow agreement for highway improvement form that they sent us, which that individual is a Nathan Fling, which I can't find any contact information to get a hold of this fella. So I'm assuming that Scott Thompson's working on getting a hold of whoever he needs to at ODOT to complete that. But the money can't be moved until we have their authorized certificate of incumbency authorizing, because basically the point, as I understand this escrow agreement, is that we set it up, we pay for the management of it, but we don't have any access to it. They authorize an individual to be in control of access to it and request directly from ODOT to the bank for release of these funds. So that's what the bank needs to know is who is that person, and they've got to certify that. So after today, if I complete this paperwork, the account will be created and ready, but we will still be waiting on ODOT to certify who it is they want to have the access to these funds. And I still don't know how to get a hold of the Nathan Fling or whoever it is that they want to be in control of that.
I say we submit everything to them and then let them pick up the pieces and finish it off.
I agree.
Yeah.
So everything we have that I've already signed, I don't know if the commissioners have signed yet or not, but we just need to send that and along with the encumbrance agreement, then they will take that and they'll say they received it and then we'll get documentation back from them.
Okay.
Yeah.
Then I'll complete the county's end of this for the creation of that account. Like I said, that Scott Thompson said the last update I got from him is that he had sent it up to Columbus to try and figure out who would complete that. But we can have everything on our end done.
Okay. Is that something Brandon can stop by later in the day, get down to ODOT and close the business today?
Well, so yeah, I have a copy. I can email to anybody too.
Okay.
And actually what they want to do is, this is just an example that the bank sent me, but ODOT will put it on their own letterhead, signify who they want to be in control of access to those funds. Once we have that, we get that to the bank, and then everything is done.
But you'll have the total agreement with the bank already, right?
So I can create the account, and the account will be active today, so if I get this back to them.
As I said, it'll be active today where we show that we have this much money in that escrow account. And it'll be left up.
See, I don't know if we can move the money before we have somebody in control of access to the money. That's what I don't know. I can find out from the bank on that.
But I think where Tim's coming in, we can show that we open.
Yeah, it shows that we opened it.
Yes, we can show that we own it.
And that's what we want to send in
Okay.
with the contract
And all that stuff like that to ODOT, because it's gonna be them responsibility to figure everything else out. We definitely do not want to give ODOT a check for $2 million and let them hold that $2 million. Because like Charlie said, it may, once they get done, they may owe us $500,000 and it may take 5 or 10 years to get that money back from ODOT.
Yeah,
We definitely.
I think
don't
this is
want-
our preferred route. Now, the time frame obviously was pretty short here, but I've gotten Huntington to do everything that they need to do on there and to get this open. Like I said, I will double check with them today and see if we can move the money without ODOT certifying who they want to have access for disbursement. The account can be created, I just don't know if we can fund it.
See, that's what I was thinking. This still should be, let's say that ODOT, I'll be okay. ODOT drags their feet on this. We still have access to pull that money back out because of the accounts that we made.
Don't even know if we put it in yet.
Correct. Because the thing about this, so the way ODOT wants this done is they want us to create this account, pay for the creation and the management of this account, but we have no access to it. So I don't know if we can fund an account that if they don't acknowledge who has access to it and we don't have access to it, can they fund it with nobody having access to
Yeah, and indeed,
it?
I think that from our conversation last time, the most important thing is that Charlie gets the signature pages to ODOT today because that's what they asked for.
Right.
And then just let them figure it out from
Yeah.
there.
Just send them a copy that you've opened up the account.
go up into the account and let them go from there.
Okay, well, I got this late Friday afternoon. I wanted to touch base with you guys first and see where we were at with everything else, make sure we were okay with the fee schedule and the transaction notice schedule and all of those things. I also wanted to bring it to Charlie's attention again too, that we still do need ODOT to respond for the certificate of incumbency for access to that account.
Yeah, and they will, they'll, once it's opened up, and they have proof that it's been opened up, they'll.
And I will get this done today. So that account, every bit of access and authorization from our end will be ready to go. And then I will double check with them to see if we can fund it before we have the certificate of incumbency completed by ODOT. And as soon as I know something, I will let all of you guys know. And then I have a copy of this. I can give or email to anybody. I've already emailed it to Scott Thompson. He says he's got it moved up to Columbus. I have not checked in with him today yet to see if he's gotten anywhere on that, but they said they don't even need the original. They can e-sign it, and then I can get that over to the bank. We can make all this happen. We just need somebody to ODOT to acknowledge who it is and sign it and get it to me. We've done everything on our part. I was really pleased with the bank. They were able to move very fast with us. I met with their corporate trust team Friday afternoon, and they told me they could get it done by today, and they did.
So we need signature.
We need a resolution passed, right? We've already passed the resolution.
We are past the rest.
Did you see my signature on
We
this
just need
resolution?
Need to be-
You guys reviewed it.
Pardon?
You guys reviewed everything last week.
Last
week.
We just need
Yeah.
signatures.
So that would be the escrow agreement for highway improvement. It says they want the clerk, the county commissioners, the county engineer, and the presiding officer of the legislative authority, which I'm assuming is the president of the commissioners.
Is this where, do we need to sign this?
Sign that.
Well, Steve signed this, right?
And you've already signed, Charlie, you signed the one resolution, correct?
I signed, I think, 3 papers.
Yeah.
I'll sign them again.
Anything,
Anything to get Chelsea Pike started. Yeah.
So David, are you gonna have all these documents?
So, yes,
Let's get everything in one package. What they're signed here, Brandon will pick them up at 3:00 today. Take them to the ODOT's, so our class, I think, that's 3:30 or 4.
okay, gotcha. I will have all of the documents, and I'll make copies of everything for Brandon to pick up. And then I'll follow up as soon as I get back to my office with Scott, see if he's made any headways.
Yeah, and I don't know that, I think, once they know that we've opened, have documentation, if they've opened up an
Yes.
escrow account, they may, the way they work, it may take
All right.
10 days to figure out.
He's the presiding officer.
Correct.
Well, I'll also follow up with the bank, see if we can fund it before we have the certificate of incumbency from ODOT.
You have to sign it.
But I don't know, actually, I don't know if ODOT requires us to fund it.
Well, they require it.
Well,
But you can show the paperwork, you know, everything.
exactly. Is the important thing to make this go forward that the account's created, or is it created and funded? I don't know.
Let's see, as long as we show them whatever, that's before. They're waiting.
And it's simple as just getting the right person to sign the paperwork, and then I can have everything.
By giving them this today,
The other
it
one's
technically
just
they
about
don't
Charlie
use
and
the
myself.
central office until next month.
So there is,
So if the district has everything
That's
today,
Charlie's already
resolution
signed.
review has a line for your signature.
if there's a red flag, so call us up and say, hey, this is.
so us three need to sign that too.
I'll have everything.
I signed that one.
Let's forget that figure out. I mean, I know it's short term.
Yeah.
Jeff sent that email last week.
This one was solid too.
We really want to get that into this escrow rather than
Yeah,
give them that money.
I didn't know what to expect from the bank as kind of traditional treasury management service. Now they do have a separate, called the corporate trustee. And so I was able to get on their schedule Friday afternoon. I told them what all we needed. They told me, hey, this is 11th hour, but we'll see what we can get done. And then actually it was late Friday evening. They said they'd be able to have it by today. So they made it happen. I am pleased with them on that.
Out of curiosity, it's probably a tricky question, but do we have any other dealings with other banks, or have we ever explored utilizing other banking institutions?
So this change to Huntington came before I was in office, but I want to say somewhere in the neighborhood of 2018. We used to be with PNC. And then Ohio Revised Code actually requires us to send out a request for proposal from any banks that operate within the county. And we actually are due this year. In fact, actually, that's paperwork that I've got on my to-do list. I was planning on, actually what ended up happening is I give you guys a copy of the paperwork submitting or allowing for proposals from any local banking institutions. I plan on getting that to your guys' desk by this summer. You guys will post that notice, and then any local financial institutions are willing to, or able to place bids for our banking services. Cool. Although I will say, I have been incredibly happy with Huntington. They've done a fantastic job. I mean, like today's a good example. They were able to move mountains and get it done on a pretty tight deadline.
Yeah.
So
I just didn't know if there's an opportunity to have multiple, in case you go to one banking institution to do something like set up an escrow and it doesn't work, and you have to call someone else, but that was just my curiosity.
Huntington Bank's been pretty good though.
Yeah.
they have been pretty good at this. But yeah, come this summer, you guys begin paperwork for me to allow for proposals for our banking services here at the county. And then any institution, financial institution within the county that can meet those requirements are allowed to submit a bid for the services. That one's kind of going on a little bit of a tangent. A lot of your smaller local banks don't want to deal with county government monies because there's laws requiring collateralization. It's actually 105% of any money on deposit. So that's money that they don't have access to do anything else with because they're collateralized in order to have the access to our funds for public use. So a lot of times, your Ross County banks and Kingston banks don't want to do that because there's times, especially when tax collection and things like that in Ross County, where we may have $20, $30 million come into our account in a 30-day span, and that pooled collateral has to be reported on a daily basis. So they have to make whatever moves on their end to collateralize at a sum of 105% of our funds on deposit. And a lot of smaller banks just don't want to do that, right? That's dead money to them for management of our funds. I think some of the bigger ones will because they have opportunities for things like this, right? That's how they get some money. And then, Huntington Bank has some other softwares for the remote deposit and things like that, where they do make money on our banking services. But like I said, we'll submit that. You guys will have that paperwork this summer. Something I've already started working on in the background, but we are due this year for proposals for our banking services.
$2,000 yearly fee is not a lot of money to make off of having to keep your billions of tens of millions of dollars tied up.
Exactly. And like I said, a lot of the smaller banks just don't want to deal with that kind of stuff, or that, or they just, some of them don't do a lot, period.
Cool. Thanks.
All right. Move on to the board of revision.
One thing real quick, two things really. I need a bid date opening for cutting trees on the Charleston Pike Bridge project. We have to have the trees cut before March 31st because of endangered species, which is the brown bat, also known as Indiana bat. So, I'll be ready to advertise on Friday. So if we can get a bid date for the 3rd.
February 3rd?
Yeah, be cutting trees on the Charleston Park project.
How long do you think that's gonna take to get the street cut?
2 weeks.
2 weeks?
Want to do 10:30, Charlie?
10:30 is fine. And, one of the trustees from Side Township will be on Allen Cliff at 11:30.
Okay.
And I'll have flaggers out there so we can park right at the site. And so you don't have to walk quarter mile.
I was over. Got
Wait.
cold out there.
Good wait a couple of days when it's down to 5.
Yeah, when it's down to about 5, -5.
Yeah, we're having heat wave at.
So,
It's going down all day.
So she,
10:30 to 3rd. They usually have to be in by tomorrow, quit time or Wednesday morning, right?
If you can get it into me tomorrow, that's fine.
Okay. Then I'll see you at 11:30. And then Brandon will be at your office at 3:00 to pick up the documents. I've signed everything, Kathy.
Yeah.
you need everything that Kathy has. Am I right, Kathy?
Yeah, I'll get that to you shortly.
Either give me the originals or copies, and then I'll have everything from the banks and it'll be ready by 3 if you guys give me that stuff.
And I'll talk to either the director or the assistant director on head of Allen Cliff and let them know that package is coming. There's kind of a gray area, want to know which comes first. I mentioned to Dave and Jeff that actually it doesn't have to be in Columbus till next week. It has to be in the district today. That gives them a week to review it and anything missing, so I think we'll be fine.
Gives it time to get that guy.
So I'm gonna get this certificate that comes, like I said, I want to follow up with the bank. Now the account is created. I would follow up with them to see if we can fund it before we have that completed. But if the accounts are created, at least that might be enough for them to move forward, and then they can figure out getting the signature for
I
that.
think that they probably fixed that before. As far as reporting, when it gets hit, that's up to you guys. I mean, every 3 months, every 6 months.
I just need you guys to tell me what your preference is on that. There is the option for them to notify us of every transaction within 5 days.
Would you like to be, my thing is would you like, you and Jeff,
Well, from my perspective, that money's being set aside. We know that it's going to be held in escrow and it's going to be gaining a little bit of interest in a money market account. I say every 6 months or every 12 months is plenty because it's money that we're setting aside, you know? Unless you guys had interest in seeing what's happening with it in the meantime, which I don't know what the value of that is. We know it's set aside for the specific reason. We know that it will be gaining interest and it'll be there until ODOT request is released.
Can you change the frequency anytime?
Probably. I know that that's part of the agreement I have to sign today, but I'm sure I could probably update that agreement in the future.
Try it quarterly, just so we get
Yeah.
a quick look at it and then
very
maybe
much, yeah.
let's start at a quarterly, and if we want to adjust it back, we want for
Seems like aside from interest, we're gonna know about it if there's transactions anyway, because if there's a transaction, that means it's like the escrow, right? I mean, they only get into it if they
Well,
need to.
The transactions could include moving the money in different investment vehicles and markets. So, in our agreement too, and I haven't had a chance to completely review this, like I said, I think we got this late Friday evening, but right now it looks like they plan on putting it in 3 different pools here. So they've got Huntington Corporate Trust and Custody Deposit, that one's completely collateralized. Goldman Sachs Financial Square Government Fund, and Morgan Stanley Institutional Liquidity Governments Fund. So those are the 3 buckets that they will be invested in the meantime, but that's always subject to change. I've directed them obviously to keep that liquid because I don't know what the exact time frame on the disbursement of this is. So there could be adjustments between those buckets, or it could expand to other buckets and investment securities. And that's what we would be notified of if there are any changes or updates. Once again, it's always going to be in money market accounts, and it will not leave this account unless whoever signs a certificate of incumbency at ODOT requested this.
We don't know who that is, right?
And we're assuming because that sample that was given to me was e-signed by Nathan Fling. The bank did say, if this document is signed by Nathan Fling, then it would need to also be Nathan Fling that is the certificate of incumbency authorized to access and release these funds. So unless they plan on doing another one of these agreements here with the county with somebody else, then we also need Nathan Fling to be.
That's where I'm going. So.
Yeah. You might have a memo or something attached to it, just saying this is what they need to do. I don't know. Or
I forwarded that information along to that Scott Thompson, and then I think he's forwarded along to whoever he needs to in Columbus, but I just haven't heard back from him yet today. But I mean, like I said, this was late Friday afternoon, and I haven't had a chance to follow up with him today. But on the bank's end, I did get in the evening all of this done and completed. They said it would be ready by today. Showed up and it was ready today.
That's good.
Cool.
Okay.
That's everything I have on that.
That's it, I'm sorry.
Next year. All right, BOR,
I make a motion that we leave it just like we are.
BOR,
Yes.
I agree. We got
Are you
a,
a second?
I'll second, yeah.
All in favor?
Well, so we do have some stuff to do. Let's take 5 minutes. No, I agree.
Please don't fail me now.
So let's start with BOR's in session. Commissioner Lowe, Treasurer Jeffers, me, of course. Commissioners Everson and Glass will fill in for Udi if Udi has a need throughout the course of the year. We can call that a motion. Are there any seconds for that?
I'll second that. Well, I'm not able.
We'll make it Udi.
Yeah. Okay.
No objections. Here's the minutes of the prior meeting. So the minutes of view, get a motion to approve those.
I'll make a motion to approve the minutes from the last meeting.
A second.
All in favor?
Aye. Trying to figure out where we're at. Where was that? I don't remember.
You were not in attendance.
Yeah, I said, I wasn't in attendance.
I nominate Udi to serve as chairman, Jeffers to serve as vice chairman, and I am the statutory secretary. Any objections?
So moved.
Approved. These are the 2024 rules, and Udi, I think this is what you were going for. The only changes are to update for 2025. And I made a mark, there was a specific reference last year to a dollar figure, and last year we decided going forward just to refer to applicable rules and state statutes so that we don't have to continue to update specific dollar figures. And so the state's updates will take care of those for us.
That's what I'm saying. The reason for that is because in the statute, it does have a yearly increase, correct?
That's right.
So if we put one number on here, we would just have to update that every year, rather than if we just go with applicable to state law.
That's right.
It can remain the same, and then we will reference higher revised code for whatever year we're in.
Right. So if you still want to make that motion, I'll second.
I'll make that motion.
No objections? I nominate Vision Government Solutions to serve as our technical advisor this year, as they did last year. Any seconds for that?
Same ones?
Yes.
Yes. Second.
No objections? Next, let's talk about rules for dismissal. So if somebody brings a case to the Board of Revision, I would move that if they don't meet the deadline of March 31st, we dismiss it immediately. Any objection to that?
No. Okay. Is that part of the, is that in here?
That's just the law.
Okay.
Yeah, we have to adopt it. Same interim, that refers to if you file within a 3-year period for the same revaluation cycle, If you come to a board of revision, you can't just keep coming back. So if you come the one time, you have to wait until the next reevaluation period. I move that we adopt that. Any objections?
That's, I don't have objections, but I'm just, that's part of the statute, am I right?
It is, but Vision recommended that we just adopt it as a
Okay.
local rule. Yeah. This is not necessarily a statute, but I think it's worthwhile if you guys agree. If somebody fills out an incomplete form, if they submit it before March 31st, we'll give them an opportunity to correct it. But if they come in March 31st with a form we can't really work with, I would move that we dismiss it.
Correct.
Okay, no objection there. Multi-parcels, only parcels in the same taxing district with identical ownership or parcels forming a single economic unit may be included on the same complaint. So Jeffers, you own multiple properties, you have to fill out a single.
For each one of the separate.
Each one of the very.
So I can't put all 6 of my houses
it has
on
to
the
be
same
separate.
complaint. Yeah,
That's right.
That's a separate complaint.
that's reasonable.
So no objections there?
Yep.
Okay. Owner name, the complaint may be filed by any person owning taxable real property in the county or in a taxing district with territory in the county, including the Board of Education. However, if the complainant is not the owner, their name must appear on line 2 of the form. So if we have a school district that's filing on a property owner, they have to identify themselves as the non-owner. I think that makes sense. Any objection to that?
No.
Okay. So I will make that motion, and Jeffers, if you'll second.
Second.
No objections? Okay. And that's all I have, unless you guys have anything else for today. So I'll move to adjourn in a second.
Second.
We are adjourned at 10:50. Next thing, we do need to pick some dates for hearings, but you guys want me to just look at the calendar and send an email? Okay. I don't know if we've gotten any requests yet. We hadn't as of last week.
It's early.
We have not.
We still haven't?
Yeah.
Okay.
It's early.
Well, it is, but it's also, we're not gonna have a heavy year, I don't think, because this is the third year of the 3-year cycle,
I
so.
think as soon as the bills go out.
That's
We have to wait until
I think so.
the bills went out. They can't file yet until
Till the bills go
all
out.
taken care of anyway.
When will they go out?
Well, so I was told by the auditor's office that we will have the updated rates in the system by today or tomorrow. And
They'll go out sometime this week.
so I will get files over to Smart Bill, and yeah, they'll either be out by the end of the week or the
So you can hold on to your hats after that.
I don't think so, because, you know, we had that first year after the 2022 reval, and then there were fewer last year. I just think people understand values where they are at this point. The next big year we're gonna have is next year, because we are updating.
This is revaluation year, so that'll be reflected
Yeah.
next year.
Yeah. But we'll see.
Where are we at with the virtual evaluation?
They're still working on that. They finished up the downtown and Bridge Street area. We don't have any numbers on that yet because they're gonna give them to us all at one time. At this point, they're working on the rest of the county, and it'll be probably around May that we have something to work with. And then it's just a conversation about how we're gonna approach it, whether we're gonna do a phased in like we've talked about, or whether we just do take care of it in a single year. But it'll be spring before we have anything concrete on
That's
that.
gonna depend on the number. I mean, it's the impact per business, and I got a pretty good idea in my head how I'd like to see it go, but I think it's gonna be substantial.
Yeah, we'll just have to manage it.
Yeah.
Deep down, I mean, there's no getting around it, but
Yeah.
doing it in a way that is,
It's one of these things where, you know, they haven't had, didn't have a reevaluation since
2007.
2007, 2008.
Yeah.
And now they're gonna get that 20 years later.
Yeah. Yeah. Not everyone though.
When you have something that's in 2007, it was, your valuation was $7 million and now it's $40 million. That's gonna be a big hit for them.
We can manage it. But that'll be April, May, before we have anything really to work with on that.
That's just so we could just take a look at it. Am I right?
That's right. Yeah, that's right. We don't finalize anything until I think it's November. Is that right?
Yeah, we got time to work out.
Yeah, we got time to.
Yeah, we'll spend the summer kind of working on that and developing a plan. All right.
Good government.
So BR is done, and I'll get you guys some dates. I think that's all I had. I think anything else?
I got another.
Appreciate it. Thank
Thank you
you.
very much.
Yeah, thank you.
All right, folks, appreciate it.
See ya.
Thank you guys. Thanks, David, for sorting everything out there.
Yeah, no problem. Going forward, if I could get a little more notice, it'd be appreciated.
Hey, we give you a little notice.
Yeah.
It was about this short, but it was.
Well, that, I think the storm affected some of that too. I think Charlie was telling me originally we were gonna try and come in last Monday and then get you guys as part of the paperwork figured out and
We need to go.
hopefully let me know and.
We need to
There
go
was a
with
little bit of back and forth too, where Charlie thought that Jeff was on the same page, and then last week we had to revisit some of that, so.
Yeah, Jeff hit me out and was it, we met at 2:00 Thursday and he says, oh yeah, we want to get this done and they want it done by Monday. All right, I'll see what I can do. So going into Friday, I was like, I don't know if it'll happen, but I met with the bank and then 2:00 Friday, I had a meeting with their corporate trust team and they said, they'll do what it takes. So we made it happen.
That's that late. I think that's very good stuff.
They have been pretty good. Our treasury management team really does get on top of stuff, and when I need them to make something happen, they make it happen. So Kathy, you'll have all of that paperwork to me.
Shortly, yeah.
Agree? Okay. Appreciate it.
If you just give me a copy of what you have as well, I'll put it with my copies.
Gotcha. I'll make copies of everything I have, and then we'll trade.
Sounds good.
See you, Mel.
One other thing I got was last week we were given the paperwork on the pilot program for Hickway Ross and St. Trace for the latest Kenworth expansion. And that kind of went under the table, but we didn't discuss that last week.
Yeah, I didn't,
But
it wasn't even on my radar.
they were asking us to pass resolutions that they would payment in lieu of taxes.
So in my experience with these, that's pretty common for a pilot payment to be paid to the school district. I don't know the terms of the pending agreement right now. What's the timeline for a decision?
That's what I didn't understand. There's nothing in there that.
I should say, I didn't see anything. It was a timeline of when we wanted it.
So I think we got another week here till next Tuesday to where we can review that. You both have copies of those, right?
I'll have to look back through. I don't know that I do have a
You
copy.
may have to send it out. You still got to send it back out to it. But my thing is going to do a reevaluation of that property out there. What numbers did Kenworth throw at them, at the schools, and say, hey, we can do this because this is, it may come up with.
I think we make that
You
adjustment
may-
when everybody else does.
I just said it may be.
Well,
We look at that in May and it goes into effect in October or November. It's gonna be higher than what it is now, way higher than what it is now.
Yeah, we'll make that adjustment with the rest of them because we're just shooting in the dark as to what that would be. But I think it's probably a matter of process, we should probably.
But we need to find out when they need
Right.
vocational school and St. Trace, when do they need that resolution? And do they want to hold off on that resolution until after reevaluations.
Who's leading the charge on that? Is that a Tammy Leonardo type project? or is that-
Jonathan Davis. 1% the. Voted for that.
That's from the school.
Yeah, but it's, I don't know. I like to make sure everyone understands that they're on the same understanding between the township, the school, and us. Maybe that's unnecessary now, but going forward on these type of things, that's important for our part of it as the ones who are approving it, is make sure everyone's on the same page of exactly what they're all agreeing to. Whether they're giving up in the short term for whatever they're gonna gain.
I'm just trying to figure out, was the township involved in that also, or was it just the two
It
schools?
was.
They were
So I guess all three of them were in agreement with doing that.
Yeah.
Well, and maybe the township may, you know, it's not likely that township is, it doesn't sound like the township's asking for a pilot of any kind. That's not very common anyway, but we're the ones who,
Well, I'll get that out.
yeah,
You can already get it.
yeah.
Take a look at that.
I see that, I don't know where I put it at.
Right. Brad, you got anything else coming?
Not yet,
Not yet.
not yet.
Dave, you got anything?
I would just say, what's on the capital project stuff. I think we're on the same page that
Yeah.
for us, we talked about it today, but for us to move forward, we want to get a good handle on what we've got. And with it,
Information was sent out. I spent the weekend on that policy manual, so I'm gonna get to work on that. Something that kind of summarizes everything up, because it's all in scattered documents right now. We'll see what we have and what information we need to get from them to make decisions on priority. You got anything?
I know everything right now. Doing good. Don't forget Sunday. Sunday the 19th.
Yeah, I sent her an email saying we don't be there. All right.
Monday, no meeting Monday.
Right, Tuesday.
We'll go Tuesday.
Do I have a motion to adjourn?
so moved.
Second?
Are we adjourning or recessing actually?
Well, we're adjourning the meeting, but I'm going out to home club.
Yeah, that's what I was gonna,
Yeah.
are we gonna,
Yeah, we're adjourning the meeting for the TV.
Yeah.
Unless somebody wants to carry the camera out there and pass around.
Have you been out there?
That's be my first time.
Oh, I went out over the weekend. It's pretty bad.
Yeah.
He hasn't handled it.
who has his hands full?
Charlie. Or whoever.
Township Road.
Yeah. It's a
Charlie
lot.
Wetzel,
Charlie.
Wetzel's the
Charlie.
road guy to township.
Well, but my
Well,
thing
we gotta
is,
hear from them.
that's what I said, my thing is Charlie comes to
Yeah.
us about it. The township hasn't come to us.
True. Yeah.
My,
And I would like to have the township find out what they want from us.
I think I want to see what it is, just because I've heard from residents who are worried about it, but that's, for me, it's kind of, let's go see it, and I'm concerned about it, but we don't have any jurisdiction over it.
My thing is, you know, that's like, we had that one township that has Rocky Road, they wanted $1 million. And we didn't give them $1 million, we let them borrow. They needed $250,000 or something like that. We let them borrow that money to make up for that grant money they got. And they're paying us over 5 years. So, I just got a feeling the side of the township wants us to pay for the whole thing. I don't know what they're.
Let's go find out.
Let's see what they're got.
Hate to say anything,
Is there a meeting at 11:03?
hate to say anything about them because
He's the coffee. I don't drink coffee. He could tell you all about the coffee. Dave was wanting to get a cup of coffee, he couldn't figure it out.
Is there one in there?
I've got a Keurig back here.
Oh, you moved?
Oh, he moved it.
I thought Brad.
My bad, sorry.
I was gonna give Brad the key.
I hope there's not a camera back there for me looking for a copy.
Sorry, Dave.
I think Brad's got the key.
You guys done?
Yeah, we're done.
Oh, we gotta get a photo, you know. We
Yeah.
gotta get a photo.
We gotta do what?
Get a photograph.
Photo of all three of them.
That's the only reason I bought my jacket.
Stephanie needs to talk to you